This is so sensitive. This reality is so delicate. The conclusions that we have reached, we believe, could be essentially and substantially earth-shaking to the people unless they're prepared for it. At this point, that this should be given the highest classification NATO has, cosmic top secret.
Garry Nolan just dropped the most terrifying conclusion about our planet, and the White House told him literally to shut up. In the latest episode with Jordan Patterson, when asked what are his thoughts, Dr. Garry Nolan states his provisional conclusion is that there is something non-human that has been here for a long time. Obviously, this is not a speculation, this is based on a substantial evidence because that's how Garry Nolan is. He is fact and data-based scientist, and I have no doubt in my mind that he has seen evidence that we are not privy to. He also argues that something non-human is present on Earth and it's likely been here longer than humans have even been civilized, suggesting these entities predate human civilization entirely. He also concludes by referencing Charles Fort's concept that Earth is probably someone else's property, implying that Earth may belong to or be controlled by these non-human entities rather than us. He also mentions briefing multiple governments and receiving warnings from White House representatives to shut up about his research because he is speaking out too much, and which is suggesting official awareness of what is really going on. Despite his conclusions, he expresses doubt about reported biological beings that look too human-like. He is questioning whether the humanoid form would be the most successful evolutionary shape across different worlds. Maybe it is. I don't think we know that yet. But then he says this, check this out.
Of the hypothesis, there's more than enough evidence to say that it's worth investigating. So I would ask my colleagues to just hold their sarcasm for a while.
Literally telling the critics to look at the data and the evidence before they start dismissing the UFO narrative. The core message is that Earth may have been occupied or claimed by non-human intelligence long before humans developed civilization. With that being said, let's dive in and check this part of the episode.
What do you make of this? That there's something non-human here, and it's been here for a long time, is my provisional conclusion. The question is not, that people should ask is not, is there something here? You have to ask the question first, can there something be here? And the short answer is, of course there can, because the universe is 14 billion years old. You could have gotten from one side of the galaxy to the other in our galaxy in Elon Musk's Tesla if it were traveling at 10,000 miles an hour. Right? But what got on in the first place doesn't mean the same thing as what gets off on the other side. So, yes, the short answer is something can be here. What it is, I'm not 100% sure, and I feel very uncomfortable with the sightings of biological beings, if only because they just look a little too much like us. And I just can't see from a genetics point of view why the human form is so, or even, 2 legs and 2 arms is necessarily biologically the most, successful shape. So I think there's something here. I think the data, the evidence of the hypothesis, there's more than enough evidence to say that it's worth investigating. So I would ask my colleagues to just hold their sarcasm for a while, because how do you deny thousands of reports like this? I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but I did get a phone call from somebody representing the White House because I was talking about something that they felt was a little too on the edge. They said, "You need to just shut up, Garry." I'm just telling you. I've briefed Canadian Parliament. I went to your Parliament in Toronto and I briefed all 3 parties on it. The only ones who didn't want to hear anything were the separatists. So interestingly, but no, I spent 2 days there on that. And we've briefed the European Parliament as well on it, and they're aware of what some of their own military are talking about. So that I conclude that there's definitely something here. But I think the more interesting conclusion is if something is here, it's likely been here longer than humans have even been civilized. So it really opens the question, and actually it's something that I think Charles Fort actually said, is, Earth is probably somebody else's property.
Well, that's a hell of a place to end.
It's a very interesting theory. In a way, it's an alien ownership of Earth. And us humans, we could be the actual guests here. There is a lot of evidence suggesting that we are not the first civilization being on Earth, and there is also a suggestion that we've been sort of, in a way, genetically modified and planted on this planet long time ago by someone else. So, Earth may not be our guys. And with that being said, I will leave you with one more video for the end.
It wasn't only America. In Europe, the military presence was under the direction of NATO SHAPE. SHAPE was tracking a large number of UFOs on radar flying at high altitudes and great speeds over Central Europe. Repeated demonstrations of advanced technology by these objects made it very clear to military authorities that these capabilities were far beyond anything that we or the Soviets had. SHAPE headquarters launched a 3-year investigation to determine what these objects were. Their conclusions are still classified today. Robert Dean, former intelligence analyst at SHAPE, claims to have seen the report at NATO headquarters during the early 1960s. It was entitled An Assessment.
After all the material had been collected, they brought it together and they wrote the final report with all of the appendices and annexes. Then at that time they made a determination and a recommendation to General Lemnitzer, the American 4-star general that I worked for. And they suggested, this is so sensitive, this reality is so delicate, the conclusions that we have reached, we believe could be essentially and substantially earth-shaking to the people unless they're prepared for it. We believe at this point that this should be given the highest classification NATO has. At that time was and still is cosmic top secret.